want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change, yeah. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. I do not gamble, but bet on me. Tell them that's like, yeah, c'est la vie. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they know I got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot. Cause I'm counting wins all around the clock. Never doubt me, boy, I don't stop. Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the option. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. I'm running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down, no. This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change, yeah. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. I do not gamble, but bet on me. Tell them that's like, yeah, c'est la vie. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they know I got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot. Cause I'm counting wins all around the clock. Never doubt me, boy, I don't stop. Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the option. Taking no else, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. I'm running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down, no.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier Podcast. It's your boy Mac, and tonight our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Chicago Bulls to kick off the team's 4-game exhibition slate. And I gotta say, it is awesome to have Cavs basketball back, ain't it? Just so much to talk about tonight. There were numerous things that I'm sure that we are all curious about. I know I had a laundry list of things that I was really, really curious about, and seeing some of these things play out, whether it be the reemergence of Ty Jerome, more Jaylen Tyson minutes, Darius Garland's shot profile and shot diet, Isaac Okoro's apparent new role that we've heard a little bit about, and much, much more. And I promise you, we're going to talk about all of these things. I promise. Do not worry. But ladies and gentlemen, I can't go any further without discussing perhaps the biggest takeaway of the night for me, and that is an aggressive and unrelenting Evan Mobley, the fourth-year big. My God, ladies and gentlemen, this motherfucker was getting buckets. Buckets. Did I say buckets? Because I meant to say buckets. Just making sure you got that. And then perhaps the most important part of all of it was how this dude was hounding. He was attacking Chicago's defense inside. He was antagonistic. As Tom K says down here in the chat, Evan Mobley unleashed. It was just awesome to see. It was truly awesome to see. He was antagonistic. That's just the shit you want to see, man. And we could talk about stat lines all the live long day, and that's definitely something that I'd be remiss to not point out. But to me, in regards to Evan Mobley, as I'm sure it is the same way to most of you out there, I was way more concerned, at least tonight, with the approach, the apparent mentality, the mindset, the willingness to call for the ball. And we saw that. We saw that big time tonight. And I just don't know how to put it in words. And he didn't just ask for it. And don't just ask for it, right? Have a plan when you get it. And guess what he did? He faked DHOs and drove inside. He backed his opponents down for smooth hook shots and floaters. He moved the ball around. And just his movement on the court from an offensive standpoint was lovely. He was rolling to the rim. He was out in transition. The Cavs played with pace tonight. And that's, of course, you got to give some credit to Evan Mobley, obviously, but I attribute a lot of that tonight to Kenny Atkinson for putting Evan Mobley in those spots, for putting him in good positions to score the ball and instilling confidence in him like they have been doing all offseason long. Coaching absolutely matters. And that is why when they hired Kenny Atkinson and brought in this entirely new coaching staff, I was of the mindset like, okay, it hasn't been a flashy offseason. We haven't done shit in terms of like splash moves. We made a couple of acquisitions, none big time, but most of our offseason was spent retaining talent. So hiring a offensive mind like Kenny Atkinson, that was just awesome, right? The as Tom says down here, the Atkinson effect was everywhere in the first half. And that's when the starters played most of their minutes, right? But you can clearly tell the effect that Kenny Atkinson has on these guys, on this group. And it starts with the stars. It starts with Evan Mobley. It starts with Donovan Mitchell. It starts with Darius Garland. It starts with Jarrett Allen, and so on and so forth. It was just awesome to see Evan Mobley come out there and look like bought it. He was aggressive. He was attacking them. He made sure to have a plan every single time he entered that paint, whether it be driving the basketball, whether it be backing his opponents down. You just saw a lot from him tonight that you wouldn't normally see on a consistent basis in years past. Now, his stat line on the night will read 19 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, and 3 blocks. That's worthy of pointing out because defense was phenomenal out there too. And he was 9 of 14 from the field, including 0 of 2 from 3-point distance. But it was a lot to like with Evan Mobley, and I absolutely adore the performance he had tonight. As I mentioned, on the defensive end, he was his typical self, locking it down out there, at least as far as preseason goes. And I'm just fucking excited. And I get that it's preseason, but damn, this was beautiful basketball. He really looks like he might be ready to finally take that leap, hence the title of this reaction pod. I think he is finally ready to take that fabled leap in year 4. The only thing that we did not necessarily see from this man tonight was the floor spacing. And I get it. It was always going to be a process. And I was not expecting him in any shape or form to come out lighting things up. But based upon what we heard about the new look jumper, I was a little anxious to see it. I know I cannot be the only person that felt that way. Nevertheless, he attempted 2. So for those of you who have been listening to me recently, you've probably heard that I've been echoing the sentiment that I want him to take around 3 to 4 per game and knock down around 35%, and I would be satisfied with that. And I still believe that that's going to happen this season. He didn't play his usual complement of minutes, but when he's dominating like he did tonight from inside and you're getting that 3-point production from elsewhere in the lineup, I'm fine. I ain't gonna complain about shit in regards to that. If Evan Mobley is attacking like this and you're getting that level of production from him in that regard. But I look at it and you have to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because 1, it's preseason, and 2, he didn't play his normal complement of minutes. So I think that you're probably going to see him put up around 3 to 4 attempts per game. But I love it, man. I absolutely love the performance that Evan Mobley showed tonight. And I'm trying my best here not to overreact, but it's damn hard because you saw a lot tonight, and it was just awesome. It was just awesome. It truly was. But he wasn't the only one out there. I'm going to try and stop myself So I'm going to, I'm not going to go on and on about him because there are other players to talk about tonight. And what better place to continue than with his teammate Darius Garland, who is admittedly coming off a pretty disappointing season by his standards. And listen, there are a lot of fans out there that were ready to ship his ass off to Siberia by the end of last season. And don't let them fool you, because they totally were. They're ready to get rid of this dude. Real ones know that this dude can ball, right? We know that he is an all-star caliber talent. He just had an off season. Injuries, loss of a close family member, extreme weight loss, loss of confidence at times, you name it. And no, I do not care if you think that I'm excusing the type of season that he had. It's kind of understandable when you point to some of the reasons that led to it. Again, it was disappointing, nevertheless, but we know what this dude is capable of. And right off the bat, he came out with a point to prove. All that being the case, how would Darius Garland respond to the season, to the fans that wanted him out, to the numerous rumors about friction between he and Donovan Mitchell? Well, as if his words from Cavs Media Day weren't enough, this dude went out and balled. I mean, what was the number one thing that we continuously heard from Kenny Atkinson this offseason about Darius Garland? And you know what? Let me rephrase that, because a lot has been said. There's just been so many quotes thrown out there. Y'all know what I'm talking about, though. Kenny Atkinson said he wanted DD to take a shit ton of threes. Maybe not in those words, but that's basically what he said. He said, I want you to take a shit ton of threes. And that's exactly what he did tonight. I think the number was around 8 to 9 per game. And I think he called that even conservative. Like, we can do better than that. We can get past that. And we're talking about a player who routinely takes about 6 per game. I want you to understand that. He averages 5.8 3-point assists per game, to be exact, on his career. Not bad. And mind you, that is coming in a slow-paced offense under JB Bickerstaff. Not a bad coach at all, but just not the guy when you're talking about increasing that pace and getting more attempts. Just complete antithesis of what a Kenny Atkinson is. And I mean, last season, just to paint you a word picture here, the Cavs ranked 24th in that category. Nothing to write home about at all. And I will have you know that he attempted 9 or more triples just 13 times last season. We're talking about an 82-game slate. Obviously, he missed a ton of games. That number probably extends if he plays more, obviously. But tonight, he attempted 6 triples in just 19 minutes. Do the math. I'm thinking he plays 33, 34 minutes per game. I honestly, truth be told, I do not know what the minutes distribution is going to look like with Kenny Atkinson, because we know that he wants to play like, I don't know, 10, 11 deep. We don't know what it's going to look like during the regular season. That's what these preseason games are for, to kind of look at different lineups and whatnot. But if I was a betting man, which I am, I would say he probably plays about 33, 34 minutes per game. Playing like he did tonight, he could most definitely clear 9 triples per game. There were only 5 players, if I'm not mistaken, to do that last year. So it's perfectly possible for Darius Garland to do that if the pace increases. And that is the key to me, the pace, right? What does the offensive flow look like? Is the ball moving? Is Darius Garland playing off ball more, which we saw tonight? I think that you are going to get that type of production out of him on a nightly basis. Now, he would finish tonight's game with 13 points and 5 assists. But again, this is a man that did not play his usual complement of minutes. He played just 18 minutes and 46 seconds tonight. Stat line, like I said, 13 points, 5 assists, was 5-11 from the field and 3 of 6 from 3-point range. 50%. Right. And so the question that I've seen posed across numerous platforms is like, okay, if you're going to be taking that many attempts, is it coming efficiently? Is it hurting the flow of the offense? Is it coming at the expense of others? And he did that tonight, right? 50% on 6 attempts. That's nothing small. That is nothing to sneeze at, right? That is what you want to see. And it's not like it came out of the scope of how the game was being played, right? That is exactly what you want to see from Darius Garland tonight. Similar to some of the things that we saw from Evan Mobley, these are things that can be replicated on a night-to-night or game-to-game basis, rather. It's something that you can see. And just to hop into this comment section down here, because I've been rambling on. Thanks, guys, for joining. Colin Magenti says, I know that it's not common for guys to take 9+, but we can acknowledge this guy is an elite shooter. He should be getting those up. Yeah, we're talking about a very, very good shooter in Darius Garland, who routinely has been up around 37-38% for his career. Darius Garland is a career 38.4% shooter from three-point range. And again, that is coming on 5.8 attempts per game. So you can take that volume for what you want, but we know that he's solid, right? If you give him more attempts, I think he can consistently stay in that 37-38 range. We know he did shoot a career high 41% back during the 2022-23 season, which motherfuckers just tend to forget that Darius Garland played like an all-star in 2022-23. He just wasn't named an all-star, but he can certainly do that. He can certainly play like that. So it was pretty awesome, man. It was pretty awesome. I could ramble on all day about what we saw from Evan Mobley, what we saw from Darius Garland, but there is just a lot more to talk about here. I see the questions popping up. I guess I'll jump out of order here. JT Thor. Adam Turk says, thoughts on JT possibly running the 3 at this point this season? I'm assuming you're talking about Jaylen Tyson. Love the idea of him guarding Tatum, PG, Giannis, and others. A defensive nightmare matchup. No, you are talking about JT Thor. Okay, I love it. So what we know about JT Thor is that he has primarily suited up at the 4 and 5 positions. But if you paid attention to him at college, one of the things that he was highly touted for was his defensive versatility, the potential that he has on that defensive side of the ball. That's what you were getting from him coming out straight out of college. But he has theoretically that ability to play the 3, play the 4, play the 5. He's kind of a hybrid in that sense, right? But he just hasn't necessarily been used that way. Per Cleaning the Glass, he suited up at mostly the power forward position, where he's played 83% of his minutes last year and 91% the year prior. But interestingly enough, he did play nearly half of his minutes at small forward during his rookie season. So keep that in mind. That hints at that positional versatility that I'm talking about. He was a quality rim protector at the college level, racking up about 1.4 blocks per game, which was 8th in the SEC conference that season, and is averaging 1.1 blocks per 36 minutes through his 3 years in the league. He's got some switchability to him, and I think we can all see that. You have to be able to I don't think you want to put him in bad spots, right? If you're talking about, and I know this is like ideally, and this is in a perfect world, right? But placing him on matchups like Tatum and PG and Giannis, that's tough. That's a tough thing, man. That is a tough thing to ask him to do. I think if that is who you're referring to, if you are referring to JT Thor. But I absolutely loved what I saw out of Thor tonight. Enough, in fact, that I believe, and I know he's on the 2-way deal, and that's a whole hurdle within itself, because there is a limit. I believe it's 50 games that they can appear at the NBA level. So they're going to have to figure out when or if they want to convert JT's contract, because you still have other guys down there another player who we're going to talk about here, Luke Travers, as Tom K's mentioned down here. And Amani Bates, obviously, who just suffered the torn meniscus, the partially torn meniscus, if I'm not mistaken, and just had surgery on that. But JT Thor, to me, when you're talking about the holes and the flaws on this roster, backup big is probably the biggest one right now. And with all due respect to Tristan Thompson, who we all know and love, and will always respect him for his contributions to the 2015-2016 champion Cavaliers, Tristan Thompson is not really a dependable guy at this point in his career. He can come off the bench, give you a little spark in terms of rebounding. He can hold his own defensively in specific matchups. When I have a piece of content coming out about my expectations to close out that series with the bigs, and in it I talked about how Tristan Thompson in some of his matchups, specifically against players like Joel Embiid, can still hold his own. But when you look at what he offers right now, it's not enough to me to warrant rotational minutes. And this is assuming that Kenny Atkinson will want to even play Thompson in the first place. But with the fact that you're literally going to be rotating Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen at that 5 position, meaning one is probably going to be on the floor near all times, or one is going to be playing that backup 5 position consistently, whether that is Evan Mobley essentially functioning as your backup 5 when Jarrett Allen is not out there. You're going to want to give these guys breathers, right? And so one of the ways that you can possibly accomplish that is by playing JT Thor. Yeah, you can still go back to Tristan Thompson if you need to, but when you look at what he could potentially offer you from a spacing standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, we talk about the switchability from the youth, right? We know that Tristan Thompson is what he is at this point in time. JT Thor is still very fucking young, right? So you look at what he has done from 3-point distance throughout his career. It's not great, right? Just 32% from range, but that's a hell of a lot more than what Tristan Thompson has done throughout his career from 3-point distance. So there's some potential floor spacing element to his game. And like I mentioned, he's still very young, just 22 years of age. Will be 22 when the season starts in just a couple of weeks. And on the defensive end, he's more mobile. He can still give you that level of rim protection that Tristan Thompson would be doing. And then again, the versatility that he showcases, you can play anywhere between 3 through 5. I don't know how comfortable Kenny would be placing him out there in lineups as like a tall ass 3. But it's certainly something that has been hinted at in his game, as I mentioned, right? From a positional standpoint, just go check out Cleveland Glass. 83% of his minutes at the power forward last year, 91% the year before, and then he did actually play the bulk of his minutes. However, very short, just 190 total minutes his rookie season. 49% of those came at the small forward position. So it's definitely possible. And I know that Kenny Atkinson is probably going to play around with some fun lineups, but I love the idea of what Thor could present you. He was a low cost, just kind of flyer pickup on that 2-way. And that's the type of thing that you need the Cavaliers in this new CBA to hit on. You need to be able to develop in-house talent, not just guys you draft, but young players that you pick up on 2-ways, guys that you're bringing into your organization and you're playing them at the G League level with the charge. JT Thor is one of those guys that the Cavaliers could definitely develop into a real rotational caliber player. And I get it. His time with Charlotte is what it is. That I wouldn't necessarily call that franchise dysfunctional or anything like that, but it's not in a stable position. And it's one of those things. I'm laughing because I'm seeing the name pop up down here. But JT Thor definitely has a lot of intrigue for me. I would love to see him eventually become the true backup big to Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. And we don't have to rush him along, but he's certainly a candidate to be converted this year, the same way that Craig Porter Jr. was the year prior. And, we have a pretty long-standing tradition of converting these 2-ways, whether you're talking about Dean Wade, you're talking about Lamar Stevens. You can go even further back than that, but you see where I'm going with this. JT Thor seems to offer a lot, so I love it. Leonardo T says, I really wanted Thor to finish that poster dunk. You and me both, man. You and me both. But you saw what he can provide. Jay Quest says 17 guys got minutes tonight at 18 minutes or less. Chicago played 15 and 5 saw 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's preseason. You're going to see stuff like this, right? You got to take it with a grain of salt. But even with that being the case, we have legitimate evidence to suggest that Kenny Atkinson will play deep into his rotations because that's what he's done throughout his career in his one and only head coaching stop with the Brooklyn Nets, where he routinely played 10 or 11 players. Tom K says, should we talk about Niang? Niang seems to not shaken off playoff foes, hoping summer break would snap him out of it. And see, this is the other token. The other side to that token is we can see things like this, right? Like Craig Porter Jr. also had some plays tonight where I'm like, okay, I love it, but it's just one game. And we're hoping that Niang can bounce back this year after having what could be considered a disappointing first season in Cleveland. Now, again, the 3-point percentages won't tell you this from last year because Niang was actually a very solid 3-point shooter for Cleveland last year, shooting, if I am not mistaken, 37.6% on roughly 4.8 attempts per game from range. And that is that's one of those things, right, where it's give and take. You know that you're getting that floor spacing from Niang. You know that he is going to space the floor and give you that in volume. But what you're giving up is defense and, frankly, rebounding, where he's one of the worst rebounders at his position league-wide, right? I spoke about this when I was talking about my expectations for the forward group. And it's not great, right? When you're talking about the individual rebounding stats for a player like George Niang, you don't love it because what he gives you in terms of floor spacing, he more than gives up in terms of that rebounding, in terms of that, in terms of that defense. But this is a man that literally, he finished pretty damn bad in both of those areas. He had an overall rebounding percentage of 8.5 last year and and that's coming in a career high 3.4 rebounds, mind you, which is 8th most on the team last year. There was no reason that man should have finished with less rebounds than Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, and Kerrisberg. It's just pitiful considering the position that he plays, the minutes that he get, and the opportunities that he has. And I think some of that can be chalked up to just the play style, right? He's constantly playing from beyond the arc and not necessarily being inside in position to grab those boards. But at the same time, that's not an excuse. You need to be able to get more from him in those lineups where he's playing the 4. You don't want to see him consistently being out rebounded or just not in good position. And so that's what we're hoping. We're hoping Niang can bounce back. Didn't necessarily look good tonight. I think Kenny Atkinson actually played him out of position at times. I shit you not. I'm about 99% sure that we saw a lineup where he was playing the 5. you don't want to see that, right? But Kenny, being Kenny, is going to experiment. It's the first preseason game, and why not? Take some chances out there, experiment, see what you got going on. And to be fair, it's not like Niang has never played the center before. I mean, you go back and you look at some of the breakdowns from a positional standpoint. He did play 5% of his minutes at center for Philadelphia a few seasons back. But, he was rarely used that way in other stops. Like last year for Cleveland, he played less. He played 1% of his minutes at center last year, 80% at power forward. And God forbid this happen again this year, but he played 19% of his minutes at small forward last year. You don't want to see that. Like, you have the players on the roster to circumvent that now that you have brought back Tristan Thompson, now that Dean Wade is finally healthy, and now that you appear to have found something in JT Thor. So you don't want to see Niang minutes at either the power forward position or the small forward position because he's not big enough to play the 5. He's not quick enough to play the 3. So you don't want to see either of those things. Jay Quest says, that's why I thought it was cool Kenny emptied the bench, experimenting. Bobby Schumacher says Kenny Atkinson is a plus multiplier, and that showed with how the guys played tonight. Absolutely. Dr. Claw confirming what I said, that front court of Dean and Niang. Yeah, you don't love that. Dr. Claw also says Luke had one of the craziest plays this game. He absolutely did. Let's talk about Luke. Right? Let's talk about Luke Travers, shall we? Because this is a dude spent numerous seasons over with not only Perth, but Melbourne United. And you saw throughout the last couple of seasons, because it's been up and down in numerous areas. I like the fact that they gave him time to sit down and work on things, not necessarily sit down because he's obviously playing basketball, but I like the fact that they gave him time to try and work on some of the areas, some of the flaws in his game that he had control over, right? Namely, you guys know what I'm talking about, the 3-point shot. It's not something that we have necessarily seen from Luke Travers in summer league, right? Because in 15 career summer league games, the dude shot just a combined 6 of 31 from range. That's 19.4%. That is no bueno, not good. And the international numbers likewise have been all over the place, and it's also coming on low volume. So you can't necessarily trust it. It's the same conversation that we have with Isaac Okoro, kind of conversation that we have with Evan Mobley after last season, where, yeah, he did shoot a career high, but it's also, it came on low volume, extremely low volume. So can you really trust it? And this is the thing about Luke Travers. Luke Travers, despite not having a reliable three-point shot, can impact the game in ways that you cannot quite always quantify with a stat. Whether it's positioning out there and being able to put guys in correct position, whether it's rebounding, whether it is leadership or playmaking for guys. There are just things out there from an experience standpoint playing in the NBL that Luke Travers has picked up, and no doubt has placed him in a better position than players his age or younger, right? That are still trying to crack the rotation. Players like Amani Bates. You may be able to, maybe this is reaching a little bit, but I'll throw it out there. Craig Porter Jr. Craig Porter Jr., we know what's holding Craig Porter Jr. back. It's likewise the three-point shot. There are some things in this game that he needs to work on as well. But my point is saying this. The man has been over with the NBL, over in the NBL with both the Melbourne United and the in Perth, right? And so he clearly has been able to fine-tune this game. He's, to me, not necessarily a G League level player, despite not having that three-point shot. And even when I say that, as crazy as it sounds, it's not unlike we haven't seen players succeed that are coming with similar molds. One of the players that I think of when I think about Luke Travers, the potential that he has, is Kyle Anderson, who now, if I'm not mistaken, suits up for the Golden State Warriors. Kyle Anderson is not by any means a good three-point shooter. He's a career 33.8%, but he does so many of these other things well. When you're talking about scoring inside or rebounding or playmaking, facilitating, Kyle Anderson, to me, is a pretty good starting or sticking point for the type of player that Luke Travers could potentially become. He's got basketball IQ. He's a savvy defender, and I think that the three-point shot could eventually come around. So for me, I look at what Travers has been able to do in such a short time span in summer league, and some of the performances that we've seen from him in filling the stat sheet up. And I'm willing to overlook that. I'm willing to overlook the shortcomings. The problem is that there just isn't necessarily a spot for him right now. And I think that's another important aspect of the conversation when you're talking about Travers is like, okay, on a two-way contract. That's why you kind of had him sit with the charge, not with the charge, over in the NBL for as long as you did too, because you just literally did not have a place for him. And in a new CBA that is just very tough to add surrounding talent to your core, you kind of have to, you got to kind of have to time your signings the correct way. You have to develop your talent in such a way that it lines up with your timeline. And so I think that what they have been able to do with Travers in such a short period of time has been pretty good, man. I love what I saw out of him tonight. As Claw said down here, he did definitely have one of the best plays of the night. And I love the fact that his first career preseason points, he says, damn, the three-point shot. He goes and backs his opponent down, and he just scores right over him with that hook shot. It's stuff like that where you can see some of the poise that he has. He knows what he is out there to do. He knows the positions that he should be in, and he puts guys in great spots out there. And so just to tie a bow to it, to wrap it up, his stat line will read 4 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal in just about 8 minutes 8 minutes of action on 2 of 4 from the field. Did not attempt to dribble tonight. Did not expect him to. I love what I saw from him. And that goes double for some of the other players that we saw, like Jaylen Tyson, who, despite being on here for about 35 minutes now, we have not actually been able to get to just yet. And so let's talk about him, right? The player that everybody was wanting to see. The quotes were constantly dropping about some of the things that we've seen from Jaylen Tyson this training camp. We heard so many things about Tyson this offseason, from Kenny Atkinson and Mark Madsen to Karis LeVert and Isaac Okoro. Everybody just seemed to be excited about this dude. And it's one thing to hear the hype, right? But it's an entirely different thing to see the hype play out in front of you like we did during Summer League. And we should have known it was real, when we saw him in Summer League, but he did reaffirm some of that through his play tonight, right? I think that when you look at what he is able to do from not only an off-ball, but an on-ball perspective, the dude is clearly versatile enough to handle whatever role that the Cavaliers want to stick him in to begin his career. He would finish tonight with 8 points and 7 rebounds, team leading 7 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken, and shot just 2 of 6 from the field. Now, one of the things that Tyson was highly touted for doing coming out of college was the rebounding, despite technically being considered undersized, right? We know what he measured at without shoes, air quotes, without shoes in the playoffs, Jesus, at the combine. That was 6'5.5" without shoes. But as we know, they don't play basketball without shoes. So dude is a legitimate 6'7" when he's out there in that court, and he plays like it or bigger, honestly, pulling down as many rebounds as he did. You know that he is the real deal. Coming off his season with Cal, dude pulled down 6.8 rebounds, which if I'm not mistaken was 7th in the conference that he was in, right? 7th in the Pac-12 conference. He had the 11th most total rebounds this past season, despite being, pretty undersized at the position that he plays, at least on the NBA level. So you saw that tonight. Love what he offers you on the glass. And I think that's an area when you're talking about that 3 position or 2, wherever they're going to play Tyson at, he is going to be a plus rebounder, which you absolutely love. He is going to attack the glass in ways that we haven't quite seen from Isaac Okoro, Darius Garland. I'm not going to throw Donovan Mitchell in there because I think Donovan Mitchell is a pretty damn good rebounder for his position. And Craig Porter Jr. is too. We got to throw his name in there. Love the fact that he is such a good rebounder despite being so small out there compared to some of his peers. But I say all that to say Jaylen Tyson, wherever they play him at, whether that be the 2, the 3, maybe even some small ball 4, who knows? He is going to be a plus rebounder. I think the 3-point shot will come around because we've heard that that's one of the areas of focus that they're trying to get him to perfect, right? The off-ball shooting, because he is a career 37.2% shooter from 3-point distance at the collegiate level. But when you consider that volume conversation, right, that is very important. He never attempted more than 4.5 threes per game at any of his stops at the collegiate level in any of his seasons. And that was last season, 4.5 for California, where he converted on 36% of them. A lot of that was on ball. But we know that we do have evidence that Jaylen Tyson can be an effective off-ball player, right? We looked at some of the percentiles, some of the percentages that he finished with as an off-ball player at Texas Tech. He was in the 97th percentile in cutting efficiency. He was in the 90th percentile as his catch and shoot efficiency. He was in the 94th percentile in transition and the 88th percentile at the rim. So he's a quality finisher. And so we know that he can play off ball. We know that is in his future, but I was very, very curious to see the type of role that they would give him tonight. And obviously it was kind of all over the place, but the rebounding is the biggest thing that stuck out to me. I loved it, man. I'll take the good with the bad. I'll take the 2 of 6 from the field if it means that we get to see him get some quality minutes, play some quality defense, go out there and attack the glass. These are all things that we wanted to see from Jaylen Tyson in his preseason debut. And I hope that continues heading into this next matchup, but time will tell, right? What else did we see tonight? Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome, to me, a player that we signed and we only got to see for 2 games last season. I've been telling people, Ty Jerome, you got to watch out for, because when they first signed him, when they first signed him, I immediately went back and watched that Golden State Cavs game where he just absolutely shot the fucking lights out against us. And I saw the intrigue, right? I saw the intrigue, the intrigue that he can bring you. I didn't necessarily love all of his minutes out there, but it is what it is. The 2 of 10 from the field, I can live with that, right? I can live with that with some of the other things that he brings, because Ty Jerome is not going to shoot all of 6 from 3-point distance every single night. And mind you, this is his first technical game action dating back to all the way back last season. So literally almost a calendar year ago since Ty Jerome took the court in a meaningful capacity. And we've been hearing rave things about the preseason that he's been having. But I think that Ty Jerome is going to play a real role here. Just 5 points on the night, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. But I liked some of the ball movement that occurred tonight when he was conducting the show. And he played about 17 minutes per night. I do not expect Ty Jerome to start in the rotation, but this is a player that is going to have to work his way back from a very debilitating ankle surgery. So keep your eyes on Ty. He has some positional versatility out there, being about 6'5", 6'6". You can play him in specific lineups to try and get some of your better players out there, whether you're talking about Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. Maybe you want to fool around with Karis LeVert and Isaac Okoro in specific lineups with Ty. But I say all that to say it's completely possible. Double J says, went to the game tonight. Such a good time. This offense has me so hyped. Love some of the plays we saw. He also says, I think Tyson will fit even better along starters, because he did seem really passive and pass first. Sure, there's some nerves, but with a better 4 around him, he would have racked up a few assists. Yeah, I think so too. You put some better shooting around him and you get some of those first game jitters out. I think Tyson will be just fine. Jalen Banks says, loved Kenny Ball tonight. Respect to JB, but I feel like Kenny is going to remedy a lot of my frustrations I had last season coaching wise. And I couldn't be in any more agreement with you, right? For anybody who's been listening to me talk about Cavaliers basketball for these last couple of seasons, you know that I've done my best to try and give JB Bickerstaff the benefit of the doubt. You know that I was ride or die until the end, but clearly it was time to move in a different direction. JB was not getting the type of production that we needed to see out of this core. It just wasn't. Not an offensive mind, JB is, right? He is more so a defensive coach than anything. Yes, it helps having Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley out there. They probably made life a lot easier on JB in that respect. But we are now seeing peak ball movement from this team in ways that we just did not see under the last, for this Cavaliers team in the last 4 or 5 seasons under JB Bickerstaff. We just didn't see it. It is not something that came to fruition, but more than a handful of games during the JB Bickerstaff era. And as Tom K says down here, Spidey was just chilling, but looked good. Atkinson has already had an imprint on offense. Yes. Yep. So clearly he came in, he stated what he wanted to do, increase the pace, increase the spacing, whether that be vertical spacing with the bigs or from beyond the arc. And we love it, right? We love what he has been able to do already. It's only been 1 game, but based on everything that we have heard this offseason through some of these interviews, based upon the training camp videos that we saw, we know that it's going to translate, and we know that he has gotten these dudes to buy in. And I think that might be the biggest aspect of all, right? Getting your stars to buy in. Once you get guys like Darius Garland taking 6 fucking triples in just 19 minutes, you've got them to buy in. Once you get Evan Mobley looking as assertive as he has and calling for the ball, we did not see that under JB. I'm sorry. We just did not see that. So we know that Kenny has gotten these dudes to buy in. Filthy Haven says, Luke obviously needs to spend this year in the G League, but man, I feel like putting him around these pros compounded with his natural high IQ hooper ability will create a very solid pro player for us. Exactly. And this is, to me, if I had to make a bet right now, you guys can, you can bookmark this, you can clip it, whatever. I believe if I had to place a bet on who I think will actually get converted this season, it won't be Luke. It won't be Amani, surely, after what has just happened to him. I think it's JT Thor. And so that said, why not have Luke focus on some of the things that he needs to work on? Ideally, that three-point shot, being able to become a more reliable floor spacer out there. But when you point out the fact that some of the skills that he has kind of fits in well with the other players around him. Like he could certainly make other guys look better. He is a quality facilitator. He is a quality rebounder. He is an underrated defender. He could look better next to solid shooting around him. But again, I think like the Kyle Anderson mold is a pretty good example for how a non-reliable three-point shooter can still carve out a meaningful role in the NBA. Double J says, I love that we're pushing the pace off the inbound to not just on live change of possession. Mamadou says JT looked really good. I agree with you. M2Cast Pichu says JT Thor looked fire in that short time. Crazy hustler. Yeah, I mean, people were clowning me when I said I love the JT Thor signing. This dude could potentially develop into something long term for the Cavs. But clearly, I'm not alone in this thought. JT honestly looks like he could realistically develop into the backup 4 or 5 that the Cavaliers need, that has that versatility that you could even play at the 3 at specific lineups. Love it, man. I could probably go on and on and on and on, but this is just refreshing to see. It is just one game, so we do have to take it with a massive grain of salt. But based upon what we saw tonight, I think we can infer a few things. We can infer that the pace pushing is real. We can infer that the three-point production, or at least the three-point volume, is going to increase. The Cavaliers, ladies and gentlemen, the Cavaliers took 48 triples tonight. They were not at all efficient. Shot just 20.8% from three-point distance. But there was only one team last year that took at least 40 triples. That was the Boston Celtics. The Cavaliers do not have the level of shooters that Boston does. But this is certainly a team that has the ability and has the belief to put those shots up. And if they can shoot as a team, I don't know, say around the 35, 36% range, because certain players are going to shoot much better than others. Sam Merrill, you can probably book him having another excellent season. And we know Darius and Donovan are going to shoot pretty well. Hopefully we see Niang stay at his consistent 37, 38, maybe climb closer to 40%. And hopefully Max Strus has a much better second season from a shooting perspective with Cleveland. But if they can just be somewhat efficient while getting that three-point production, I think it will pay off. And I think it's not going to be a immediate thing during the regular season. I think it will be gradual, but certainly some of the things that we saw tonight will carry over right away. If that aggression from Evan Mobley can carry over right away, we back. As Tom Gay says, we back, Mac. Looking forward to this season. Me too, man. And that's probably a good place to close things out. So as I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's listed in numerous locations, whether you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck people call it these days, at Devron Perry. If you want to hit me up on my at the official It's Cavalier channel on YouTube, that's It's Cavalier_pod. And if you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review. Send a screenshot of the review to itscavalier53@gmail.com, and I will send you an invite. If you are watching over on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're watching for the first time and you like what you have heard, like what you have seen, consider hitting subscribe. This is a nightly thing on game day, right? You will consistently hear me go live, win or lose game day, whether I'm spewing shitty takes or not. Feel free to tell me. Go Cavs.